let's still stay with health. And I wonder, MFA, if you knew before today that if you needed an ambulance urgently, you may have to pay 600 CDs to access. I'm not
For
talking
what?
about private ambulance. I'm talking about the state procured ambulances. Well, we're learning today that that's actually what it's called standard practice. The Chief Executive Officer of the National Ambulance Service, Professor Ahmed Nuhu Zakaria, had admitted today that his officers demanded 600 CDs from husband of a pregnant woman who died while in transit. Now, Professor Zakaria took his turn before the ad hoc committee constituted by Parliament to investigate the incident. He has, however, justified that demand, arguing it is, quote, standard practice. We will hear from him shortly, but first, though, listen to husband of the deceased, John Kwabena Obriyebwa, telling the committee last week what happened to his wife.
Yes, they asked for money. That was immediately I went the van at Shama Junction. The ambulance van at Shama Junction. Then they asked for that money.
And did they give you any reason why they were asking you for money?
Yes, please. They told me there wasn't any fuel in the van.
What type of ambulance was that?
It's a national ambulance.
Okay, it was a national service ambulance. That is good. In that community, to say where you are, is it a normal practice that if the ambulance is to send a patient to another hospital, is it something the ambulance service normally demand or request from relatives for patients who are referred to other hospitals where you are?
It was my first time of experiencing this. So actually I didn't know much about the ambulance service that the service that they provide. My first time. So when they came, but I was having in mind that since I'm in national ambulance, I thought maybe they don't take money. That's what I was thinking. So I was surprised when the man, I didn't even argue. I agreed that I would pay the money, but I didn't have enough money on me at that particular time. So until we get to Accra, I know why I said Accra. I will organize the money for them. But they turned them yes. I begged them. Even there were some pedestrians passing. They even stopped and also behind me.
Well, the CEO of the ambulance service explained that the ambulances are fueled mainly for road traffic accidents. He adds, however, that when it comes to inter-hospital transfer, an amount is requested for fuel support.
And the way our operations are carried out is such that, for example, there must be a caller who will call to the dispatch center. The dispatch center will then interrogate the caller to find out whether it's a road traffic accident or it is an inter-hospital transfer. And basically, when it's an inter-hospital transfer, they will have to discuss possibility of what we call the fuel support. Because invariably, most of the time, the ambulances are fueled, but mainly for road traffic accidents and emergencies that there's no time to even discuss what we call fuel support. In this particular case, the story we had was that because it was around the festivities, and also, during that time, we still were in the COVID era where there were a lot of activities at the station level. We were told they had exhausted their fuel. And a communication went to the hospital that they didn't have enough fuel, and therefore they would need 600 CDs support of fuel. According to the crew, they were sure that they could move because the hospital was going to arrange that, either directly or indirectly with the family of the disease, or the patient for that matter. So the understanding was that they will drive to the hospital and be able to get the fuel support. When they got there, they picked the patients, and the impression was that the husband of the patient was the one who was going to provide the fuel support. They left the hospital, so with the understanding that they will pick the husband who was ready to provide the fuel support. They arrived at the hospital, at the point of picking up the patient's husband, and then they discovered that he did not have the 600 to be able to fuel the car.
Well, Professor Zakaria also told the committee that it has not been established yet that a delay by the ambulance personnel caused the death of the patient.
This was a lady who from day one was in some form of shock. Obviously, it will have started with neurogenic shock. And whatever the case, it will have moved into cardiogenic shock. And when they got to Commander Junction and they realized that the patient's condition was deteriorating, they had to branch to Cape Coast Teaching Hospital. There, obviously, the challenge they had was because they hadn't called before coming, definitely the hospital was not ready to accept the patient. So they had to spend some time trying to negotiate acceptance of this particular case. Eventually, in the course, the woman's condition got worse. She deteriorated and went into cardiorespiratory arrest. And some resuscitation was done, but obviously unsuccessful. And the woman eventually passed on. So from the narration we had, from the investigations were part of, this were the chronology of events that led to the death of the patient.
And that's there as the Chief Executive Officer of the National Ambulance Service, Professor Ahmed Nuhu Zakaria. Well, officials of the Health Ministry also testified before the committee today. Chief Program Officer, Medical and Dental at the Ministry of Health, Dr. Bafwewa, said a surgical operation should not have been conducted on the patient. My colleague, Kweku Asante, parliamentary correspondent, is in the studio with me with more on this. The Ministry of Health said there were severe gaps in the processes that led to the death of Augustine Awachi. Tell us more.
So, according to Dr. Bafwewa, the data they have shows that the blood level of the woman had risen to a certain level that the hospital should not have gone ahead with the surgery. He says the patient should have been stabilized before a surgery would have gone ahead. He had also been commenting about the ambulance processes and assured that this is something the ministry will be dealing with.
There were gaps in the management of this patient, first from the personnel point of view, and also mainly the health systems that we are operating with. From the workforce point of view, just before the operation, the vitals were not, especially the blood pressure was not very good. And the staff persevered. And we all know that before you, even the anesthetic procedure that they use, every health practitioner will tell you before you use spinal anesthesia, you make sure your general anesthesia machine is ready so that it can back up when there is something goes wrong. But we realized the general anesthetic machine was not functioning well. And for that matter, when this patient crashed after surgery, there was no effort to intubate this patient and give respiratory support. So that was a gap.
Kweku, the Director General of the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Patrick Kumabwaji, also corroborated that assertion. What has he been saying about the Holy Child Hospital, which referred to the now deceased patient?
So the Ghana Health Service, when they conducted some investigation, established that the hospital did not have some equipment that would have led them to stabilize the situation. Indeed, it has also come up that even the doctor who made the referral did not do that officially. He was just communicating with another doctor in the hospital to say that I'm bringing a certain patient to you. He says these are challenges that they are going to fix, and he's been assuring that this is a troubling situation and they will fix it as soon as possible.
See that when somebody is in your facility getting to the next level is your responsibility. It's not the responsibility of relatives or anybody. And so, and of course, including the ambulance, but we work very closely with the ambulance. And so whatever they need to do has to be done. Because you may call for an ambulance and the ambulance may not be available. And so we work quite okay. And I still believe that ambulance services as it is excellent. Maybe we may need a few, for some strategic facilities, facilities that own their own ambulance so that such movement can be done faster than it is. But under normal circumstances, I think this is excellent. It is not necessarily, it is some of the bottlenecks of referral that is getting exposed here. And so we need to look at some of the challenges of them and address them. I mean, you have an ambulance. The hospital could have bought the fuel and build it to the patient and will not have this problem. So we cannot say it's really just the FERA as a policy, but there are bottlenecks. Some of them are human, some of them are...
DJ, we are together.
The Director General of the Ghana Health Service. Interesting that we have the ambulance service, the Ghana Health Service, appear before a committee, and we are told that you need to pay 600 cedis for an ambulance. Really, what then is the purpose of an ambulance service?
Yeah.
Concerned.
I mean,
it looks like we are not angry enough as a country.
Considering really, that this is a poor community family, but Kweku, how did the committee react to these revelations?
So the committee members were not excited. Indeed, Dr. Kwabena Minta-Akando, who is the vice chairman of the committee, was furious. He was telling the ambulance service CEO that he should not be defending the acts of his men. Indeed, he concedes, the ambulance CEO concedes that it should not be the case, but because of their budgetary concerns, and that is why people have to charge. He actually admitted that it's nationwide, that when people call the ambulance service, they demand something for fuel. And like he said in the sound, if it's not a road traffic accident, which is an emergency where they can't even discuss fuel support, that's what he calls it, fuel support, then they would have to ask for people who are doing
will it be issued with a receipt? Is it any accountability?
Something of that sort should happen. And MMS were asking, ambulance service had not come to parliament for a fees and charges to be approved for them.
Yeah, so exactly.
So on what basis are they even charging the money? He says it's exigency. They have to charge to fuel.
So you just give to the ambulance, the paramedics in the vehicle.
Yeah. And then, in this case, no receipt were issued. You don't know. In fact, the elder sister of the deceased said they did not tell them anything. The driver just stayed for a while, and just came back that they had fueled before they took the patient to another hospital. And
so they took the money before they went to fuel, or somebody paid?
Indeed. When they called the ambulance service and they went for the patient, they said they were going to meet the husband. That took like 1 hour. When
to take the money? While the woman was
in the vehicle without a nurse,
wow,
without a doctor. The husband said he had only 150 cedis on him. And so they should take that, and that if you go to Accra, Kolebu, he will do whatever he could to try
get
and
them the rest of the money.
And then they said there was someone at the front seat that said there is no way the ambulance is going to move if they don't have the 600. So passers-by came and pleaded that they should move. They didn't. So they returned the patient back to the Holy Child Hospital.
Where she was referred.
Where she was referred because they did not have the
but they had fuel to do the return journey.
Yes, so they said they did not have the enough fuel to go to Accra. So they were not going to move. So even there, they begged until a nurse in the hospital who didn't know them gave them the money. That would have been like 3 hours spent with a woman at the back of the hospital without
and
a
of
nurse
course,
or a
Accra,
doctor.
Kumasi to Accra.
So they were on the way back. They were on the way to Accra. Then the woman's condition destabilized to a certain level, so they had to bring to Cape Coast Teaching Hospital. When they went there also, because they didn't call before they got there, there was no doctor or nurse to attend to them. It was then that the woman was pronounced dead by the paramedics, not by a certified medical doctor. These are some of the things the committee members are not so happy about. And so even as of now, An autopsy has not been conducted on the person.
lady.
The person has been buried. It's been 4-5 months now, and members are trying to get to the bottom of the case.
So what happens now at the committee? Are they done with their hearing?
So today was the last day. They heard from the Ghana Health Service. They also heard from the Ministry of Health, as well as the elder sister of the woman that has just passed on now. They're expecting to meet tomorrow to finalize the report and see if they can present a report to the House before they rise in the next 2 weeks. If they are not able, then they will do so when the Parliament resumes from their break.
Thank you, Kweku.